Join Lee Bellinger today on the Bellinger Report. Lee is the publisher of Off-Grid Confidential, one of the last information financial newsletters to be delivered 100% through the mail and completely independent of the internet and big tech scolds. Lee has been publishing continuously since 1988 and is your guide to off-grid living.
So this is Lee Bellinger, the Bellinger Report, and today I'm talking to Cameron Chell, the CEO and co-founder of Draganfly, which is the oldest, most established drone manufacturer in all of North America, and with quite a pedigree to talk about. And Cameron, let me start by pointing out that congratulations on your new listing on the NASDAQ. It's been a time in coming, so maybe we could start with that and just give us some thoughts, how you feel about it, and how that's. I know that's a bit of a game changer. We've discussed that before, and why don't you share this with the people who are going to be very interested in this particular interview?
Lee, first and foremost, thanks for the opportunity to do this with you and your interest in the company and consideration. Yeah, the IPO on NASDAQ. So we've been trading for a couple of years now on OTC. And, few companies, ever are able to make that transition as a percentage for sure. And so we're really, really fortunate for an incredible team, great customers, and of course, shareholders and folks like yourself who have supported us through that process. We raised an additional $20 million to add to the $20 million that we've got on our balance sheet. And most importantly, that solidifies our capability to really go for that number one position or number two position in North America, which we think we're uniquely positioned to do. So long-term value to the shareholder, if you look at the fundamentals or at those types of ratios, we have more tangible value now on a per share basis than we ever have. Certainly, it was somewhat of an unfortunate week to be pricing and coming out. In the month of July, 24 of 34 small cap offerings are underwater. And in fact, only 2 of those 34 are even 10% above the offering. And then, of course, in the last 2 days, at the end of the month here, 3 of 6 IPOs, big cap IPOs got pulled. And the ones that haven't performed, including Robinhood, which is well underwater, which was already priced at the low end of the range. So, so the markets were pretty trepidatious. And the feedback that we got from the institutions that came in were, we wouldn't be doing any other small cap offering this week, but we're very, compelled by the story, got very good solid fundamentals and an incredible pipeline of work coming forward. So we still feel very fortunate to be in the position we are, and we're confident that we're going to drive shareholder value in a big way.
Absolutely. Plus, you're in the depths of summer. My goodness, the depths of summer doesn't get. So, by the way, I really enjoyed your interview on Sports Nation. We aren't going to talk too much. You've already done. We've already talked about your sanitizing of stadiums and so forth, which is a big deal, and they were interested in it. But actually, I was going to ask you a little bit more about your service market in mining and forestry. Those are very big issues right now, and your company is uniquely positioned to deal with these very important sectors of the economy.
Yeah, the drone industry is finally coming into its own. So, we've been in this space for 20 years. And every year we hear how big the space is going to be and how big the space is going to be. And ultimately, we've never seen it. There's certainly a massive military market. It's a $20 billion industry. And, there's a solid consumer space, which we don't play in. And there's this light commercial market, which has been dominated by, the Chinese manufacturers. But that, mission critical public safety, that medium drone industry and that heavy drone industry on the commercial side really haven't developed as of yet because there hasn't been regulatory clarity. And so we've been biding our time, doing our contract engineering, developing our IP, certainly throwing down some numbers that make us a sustainable business the last 20 years, but really waiting for that moment to scale. And in the last 18 months, we've seen 2 catalytic events. Those 2 events really are true regulatory clarity to how, what, when, where, and why of how drones are going to be used within the infrastructure and the airspace. And then second of all, of course, the government and corporate sentiment around the prolific nature of drones capturing data and why that now needs to be done, manufactured, and managed by North American companies and not potentially foreign national companies that have different agendas. And so in that, customers are coming to us, Lee, and they're asking for full solutions. They're not saying, hey, we want a drone that does X, Y, and Z. I mean, that's an airframe, and lots of people can build airframes. but not a lot of people can provide a specialized drone service and logistics with patented equipment and with secure protocols. And so whether it's equipment or whether it's solutions or whether it's, as you're mentioning here, services, the types of companies that are approaching us are looking for services because it's their mission critical data. So we have mining companies. We have a mining services division. And we believe that in the next 3 to 5 years, we will be the largest repository of battery mining data in the world. And people say, well, you're not a mining company, you're a drone company. Nothing collects mining data better than a drone. And the AI that we have on our sensors, regardless of the great drones we built, but the AI that we have that analyzes that data is the best in the world. And that's why we're winning the business. So people come to us looking for a drone, but what they're really looking for is the best data.
I think that maybe in the earlier years, I have to believe that when you got up in front of audiences, as you did in one case with where I was a member of the audience and said, we're not a drone company, we're a data company. And I said, damn, if that's not a very forward-looking way of evaluating this, because it isn't just the AI, it's the new sophisticated sensors that feed the inputs that make the AI so meaningful. Because we're talking about major construction projects where you can ascertain the progress or lack thereof in desolate areas where there is construction, where there's where mining sites and forestry issues are being managed, and we're talking about the potential for wildfires. We're talking about the potential for all sorts of both calamity management and frankly, the use of data to determine to help farmers and the mining operations be more efficient and more effective in their use of the environment as well. Yeah. So these are all really critical issues that frankly, collecting the information is not intrusive. It's the kind of information that's good for the industrial and corporate base of both the United States. And I have to commend you for that forward thinking look. It would have been easy for you to get caught up. We see it online all the time. People get so caught up in the technology, they forget why it's there. They forget that it's there to help people and to make things happen. It's not just the technology. It's so easy to get caught up. Don't you agree in technology that you have to remember that what is the purpose? Why are we doing this? How are we bettering society? How are we helping businesses improve what they do with less damage to the environment and more productivity? And this is like part of a much larger vision that you have.
I remember that conference. It was probably, not quite 2 years ago, and that you were there and we had the chance to meet, which was very fortuitous for us meeting you. And I remember the look on the audience face when I said, Draganfly is not a drone company. We're a data company. Everybody looked like I had a hole in my head. And
it sounded a little utopian.
Well, it did, but the reality is in the last 18 months, our mining services division, likely the fastest growing mining services division in the world right now, is growing not because we have great drones. Now, we have great drones, but what those drones do is what's most important. And so the sensors that we custom build for the magnetometer readings and the AI that we layer on top of those sensors so that when we deliver data back to those mining companies looking for these precious battery metals now, we're providing them target data. We're not providing them magnetometer data. We're giving them data about the formations underground and the neighboring property formations and the historical and geological formations that are similar around the world and pricing sensitivities. And that's what they want.
Well, the other thing is that modern civilization requires, for example, huge amounts of lithium, and we're 90% dependent on the Chinese. Your drones are going to help save this, helping us figure out where the lithium mines are in the most probable places, because right now our entire technological base is at risk. And we're going to need to play catch up on this. And by the way, just one thing I do like to mention to people is that you had two different administrations in the White House, and they couldn't have been more different. But boy, they sure agree on the importance of primacy in the drone market. That the continuity is impressive. And, I think it speaks to the broader mission that you're doing in the United States, that it transcends politics. That's pretty rare. Most people figure that everything is a big disagreement, but when it comes to the importance of finding new mines, and we don't want to tear up the environment looking for mines that are not promising. This reduces the footprint on nature itself by using this type of technology. And, yes, the AI is very impressive. The sensors are impressive, but how we use this technology to better focus our resources so that we're not quite so dependent on foreign powers, and that the Western democracies have the necessary minerals that we are desperately already short on, that these types of technologies allow us to leapfrog some of the bigger problems, because, mineral surveys are very, very time consuming. They're very, very expensive, and they're not very accurate. So by marrying AI to the new sensors, and like you say, looking for the potential signatures of, just say, lithium, this is really crucial to short-circuiting some of the great national security problems that the Western democracies do have.
Yeah. And whether it's battery metals, whether it's forestry, whether it's pipelines and energy, or wind turbines, or whether it's even health services or public safety, it's all the same principle applied. Nothing can collect and provide data better than that drone, and less expensively. And with the right sensor and the AI applied, we get better data at a lower cost than we've ever had before.
Not to mention pipeline security. So you could look for weaknesses in the pipelines, just like you can you can use a proper drone to penetrate an aircraft airframe to look for small cracks. So these types of applications are legendary. By the way, I love your utopian. Actually, I talked the other day with Martin Cooper, who's the founder of the modern cell phone.
Amazing.
And have you ever had the pleasure?
No, I have not, but I know exactly who he is. Just totally impressed.
Amazing man. Now, he has a penetrating intelligence that I found a little intimidating, to be honest. But thank God he's a utopian. It's a positive really right. Once, Cam, I asked this man, I said, what are the methodologies you use when you invent something? And he says, Lee, you missed the point. He said, I invented the cell phone because police needed to be able to not just work from their cars. They needed to be able to go out and help people in the community. And we found a need, and we cleaned it and fixed it. We didn't just invent it. And it made me think a lot about what you do, because you're talking about forward technologies that are going to help millions of people. That are helping millions of people.
Well, and what's interesting about that, what I love about that story is he was dealing with a real use case, right?
That's correct, a real use case. That's what he said. He said, "What's wrong with you, Lee?" It
solves a massive utopian type problem. Like the answers were obvious if we focus in the right areas. I believe that the biggest strategic differentiator that Draganfly, an advantage that we have in the market, is what we've been around so long. We have more customers than any other North American drone company, but by orders of magnitude. And we are so customer focused. All of these ideas and all of these products and everything, they're coming out of customer demands. Like, we didn't dream up that, hey, if we provide AI onto magnetometer data, we're going to be the biggest repository of battery metal data in the world. No, we had a customer that came to us and said, this is the problem that we need to solve. We're just solving the problem. And so that's the really, really big difference. So a lot of the drone companies in the past and the current ones, because it's hot again and there's regulatory clarity, and the market's finally, going from this, to this $40 billion market in a matter of years, they're inventing something and going out and getting a customer and trying to scale it. But we have our customers inbound telling us what to do. And so that's really the big advantage here. And believe me, they're not looking for airframes. They're looking that really the drone market today is in two buckets, right? That are intrinsically meshed. And those two buckets are either delivery or data. And if you're going to play in those markets to be the number one player, you have to have extensive experience in autonomy, right? Autonomous operations, and in AI. Like airframes and sensors and software and all the rest of it. You have to be really good at that. That's table stakes. But if you're going to be the leader, these are the two areas you have to be the best at. And so that's where our business is focused. We've done a more autonomous work, in the military contracting space than probably any commercial company out there. And so porting that into our delivery services that we're doing. We're providing turnkey services, to organizations that are providing delivery in emergency medical, in mail, and in medical supplies and military support. That's where we see that delivery market. Delivering a pizza box for Pizza Hut gets great headlines, but a lot of companies are going to blow themselves up doing that over the next 3 to 5 years. There's a ton of regulation and sociological acceptance that has to happen before you and I are going to feel comfortable walking down our neighborhood and having drones buzzing over our head. However, delivering emergency medical supplies to offshore rigs or delivering emergency medical supplies into disaster recovery zones where you can't get trucks rolling or boots on the ground, governments are funding that stuff now. And that's where we're going to continue to play. So autonomy and AI, that's what it's all about. Now, why do we know this? It's certainly, we have a very bright team, but the team is bright because we deal with customers every single day. They're the ones who tell us what to do.
And I think you're also in one of those businesses where sometimes the answers to the questions are larger than the questions being asked by many people, because that's the secret to this. This is why it's such an open-ended potential market. And, not to mention, and people forget too, that you're a Canadian company, but part of NATO. And so there's a long history of cooperation, the Canadian and American technologists working together and centering it here, in the West, where, and this is really a very key thing. And back to the bipartisan, the fact is the bipartisan thing tells you that what you're doing is a broad benefit to all the people of the country and other countries as well, because it's going to spread and it's going to do. And by the way, that was something Martin Cooper told me. He said, he was telling me, and I think this applies to you as well, but he's a very big picture man. And he was saying, the collaboration potential now as we develop a collective intelligence, as humanity develops collective intelligence for the first time ever, and the potential for collaboration. And so I see so many sectors that are going to be affected by the AI and analytical potential. So we almost need a futurist to come in here and talk about this stuff, because you're right. It's not just the technology, but I like the fact, and one of the things that I do like to emphasize to people along the lines you're talking about is that real people are coming to you with real problems, and you're coming up with real, not necessarily solutions, but better than solutions, approaches that have an approach has an extraordinarily broad potential, and the spin-off of the spin-off of the spin-off of the spin-off. Because basically what happens is you take one technology and apply it to another part, to another sector of the economy. And I've never seen so many jumping off potential opportunities as with drones, because drones are extremely, the ones, we're not talking about these commercial ones. We're not talking about these store-bought drones, but these highly sophisticated devices that help with every bit of our industrial and forest management issues. And so it's great stuff. So you got any other information on forestry work you guys are doing? I know there's a tremendous amount of interest in this, and I think it would be great to tell a little bit more about it.
Fantastic. Yeah. Hey, I just want to touch a little bit on the Canadian comment that you made there. And so I think it's really important to note that, we're domiciled in Canada. That's originally where the company was started. I've lived and worked in the States for most of there's certainly a large part of my working life. Kids are American and all the rest of it. But it's also, that's where we've got facilities and assembly and manufacturing, and that's where our customer base is. And we meet all the security protocols and all the rest of it. And
yes, you do.
And for sure, we live on the longest unprotected border in the world, and we're completely dependent on each other in terms of society and nations and politics and all the rest of it. And so we're really excited to be a part of that integrated approach, and certainly think that we're well positioned to be the number one or two player in that market. And as it relates specifically to forestry, forestry kind of touches two things. It touches forestry specifically, lumber counts, inventory management, water table, cutting of roads, use of resources, critical supply of natural resources into our economy and the housing industry, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's but forestry is also part of the bigger picture of the environment. So we do two kind of broad areas within forestry. We certainly fly a lot of LiDAR missions. literally counting inventory and lumber yields while they're still in the ground. Also providing groundwater information, being able to provide topographical information so that they know where and best how to cut in roads and those types of things. We're even working on drones right now that plant trees instead of tree planters. And so all super interesting and very directly applicable to that industry. But in the bigger picture, we've got sensor development that's happening to analyze the smoke in the air to determine which forest fire it came from and what are the environmental pollutants or particles, in that particular area. Unbelievable, very cool research. And these are now drones that literally from the air can sniff forest fire potential, weeks in advance. We're also looking at dry areas and drones being used to monitor these types of areas. So it's the environmental presence of drones and the impact that the drones are having already on the environment is incredible. Now Forestry also touches over into emergency medical services. So when you've got drones that can be providing the analysis of where fires are happening, very inexpensive elevated observation as compared to having to put helicopters or planes or that types of observation up, being able to drop in emergency medical equipment in certain areas. And even in certainly, I think coming in the future, types of firefighting equipment, it's the forestry industry, drones will be as integrated into that industry as a half-ton truck is.
Absolutely. And if you want to cut to it all, we're talking about reducing the human footprint on nature, because you're talking about more efficient farming. You're talking about more efficient everything. When the United States was founded, it took a lot more land to do a farm. And as the productivity has improved, the amount of land usage, and now we're going to have another quantum leap in it, because like you say, if you can get out in front of these forest fires and you can get out and say, this is where we need to cut the tree lines, a fire line, this would be the most efficient way to do that. You save millions of homes. You can help, planners so that animals have places to go, that leaves, places for them to go as we develop, and that we can have a more orderly way of coexisting with the planetary ecosystem. So this is it's really a larger issue. That's what I mean. It's like, you're giving, the questions are about the profitability and everything, but sometimes it's the answers that matter more, that are larger than the questions being asked. And, so it's always fun with the investment side as an upside to the whole thing too. So I like it for a lot of reasons. I like any bipartisan business. That's always a good sign that it's something real.
Yeah, well said.
Something substantial. So let me ask you this question. Have I missed anything that we need to chat about today to bring people up to speed? Because I've talked to you a few times before, and I have no doubt I'll be talking to you again. I hope. And is there anything that you would like to bring to people's attention on this Friday?
Yeah, I just really think that which you have done such a great job of highlighting that the drone industry, it really isn't about the drone. It's about what the drone does. And those two categories of delivery and or data are really the two best categories that you need to play in. We certainly feel and will continue to work hard to position Draganfly and on the NASDAQ here, DPRO is our symbol, as that company that, can execute for customers today, but really has a bigger picture in mind in terms of what it's going to accomplish. Folks like Gates and Jobs, et cetera, they didn't go out and build an operating system but a computer. They actually built an entire ecosystem. Gates didn't go out and, Jobs didn't go out and produce a phone, right? He built an ecosystem, right? And that's really what Draganfly is all about. We're not about just building drones. Now, we have to build, like Apple has to build fantastic phones. We have to build fantastic drones, but it's not about that particular drone. And to my knowledge today, when I look at the competition out there, they're building drones. And that's what they're focused on. And lots of them are going to do fine because of it, because the industry is finally scaling. But the difference with Draganfly is it's really focused on the ecosystem that it's putting in place to be the major provider of what drones do, which is either delivery or data. And on that's what we're focused on. We've got a fantastic management team. We've got an incredible board of directors that gives us access into absolutely incredible world-breaking opportunities and thinkers and engineers. And in the last 8 years, we've only had one engineer leave the company, actually left for Google. We just couldn't match what was going on. We've never had a the inability to attract great people to the organization. And I think we just have to continue on that path. And if we do so, we've had the good fortune with some of our management team to have built billion-dollar-plus companies before, and with some just a little bit of luck and a lot of grind, we're going to do it again in what will become one of the most important infrastructure industries in the United States.
And that's the other thing about you guys. You're not trying to be all things to all people. You want, like you said, it's the infrastructures where the action is going to be in this country in particular, in the United States. And this is the ultimate, as we modernize our infrastructure, this is going to be part of the national infrastructure because it's all going to be run. It's whether, all this, if you look around, a lot of stuff is out of date. Farming is out of date. Forest management is out of date. Mineral detection is out of date. Evaluation of water sources out of date. And this is a moment that's time has come. And as there's going to be more emphasis on these issues, we're going to need macro ways to manage and improve. And there's a broad consensus that we want to do it in a way that's efficient with nature and reduces the footprint on nature, the human footprint on nature, and yet get more yield out of it and make society make it a more cohesive, more robust infrastructure system, that goes in every sector you can possibly imagine. And you have jump off potential into so many sectors, jump off potential. This is not about search engines. This is about it's about complex food delivery systems. It's about complex water delivery systems. It's about out-of-date power systems, keeping it all in one way of looking at it that allows a better management system that's the 21st and 22nd century management system that we desperately need.
You get it, Lee, and you've seen it, and I think a bit you've seen us execute in this direction.
Yes, I have.
We've always seen Draganfly as a platform. So often in the software space, are you a piece of software? Are you a device? Are you whatever? And Apple is really a platform. If we think about everything, Google is really a platform. They have a whole ecosystem. And that's really how we view Draganfly is we're providing a platform for all of these things to be able to happen. And again, it's the drones are the way that we are going to be interacting with our physical world, whether we're receiving a product, whether it's emergency medical services or supplies, or whether it's how we monitor our environment, manage our, inspect our infrastructure, and then take all that data, right, and apply AI to it so that we can actually manage it. And something out there other than a human being has to be able to go out and collect that data. I mean, just the physical cost alone, you can't do it with how complex and the size that things are growing, much less the type of data. We can put a drone underneath a bridge with a hyperspectral camera or ground penetrating radar or X-ray or whatever. I'm sorry, a human can't do that. And so we need the capability just to advance society. We need drones in order to do that. And it's not about producing that drone. It's about producing a platform that can do all of those things. And that's really what Draganfly is establishing itself as.
I don't think I can top that. So
thank you for your insight, your continued support. I always so enjoy the opportunity, especially off camera when we get to chat about things and really think about the vision and the opportunities and where things will go. I mean, it's your insight and brilliance is always so.
I was like, I was apologizing for thinking you were a utopian when I realized that you were. Because you're all a utopian is a macro thinker. They're thinking about how society can be helped, and you're also informed by actual need. Actual need, and that's what Cooper said. He said it's actual need. I perceived a need, and we invented this.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that big thinking, and so I'm looking at the screensaver on my other screen here, and so it's up in front of me every day. But it's think big and act small. True ambition is the profound desire to live usefully and walk humbly. And that's how we try to run our company. We like to think big, but we act small. We take those small customer increments every single day. And before you know it, you add them up and you go, wow, this is adding up to the big picture that we had thought about. But if we don't do those small execution acts every day for our customer, it's
the whole is larger than the sum of the parts. That's for sure. And so, well, good. Cameron, this is awesome. I thank you for this. And by the way, congratulations again on your NASDAQ status. And I think it's it's just another step. It's another small step, but some steps are bigger than others, and that's a pretty good one. But it's been coming a while, and it's a natural extension and flow from what you've been doing for a long time. So, sometimes when your moment comes, it comes, and you've stood your ground. You didn't try to be all things to all people. You didn't try to go in and sell, cute little drones for Christmas. You didn't do that. You focused on your vision. You kept, you stayed guided by that, and that's it's hard to do. Shiny object syndrome's a big problem for many people. So, it's good. So, okay, this is Lee Bellinger of the Bellinger Report. And I've just finished talking to Cameron Chell. Cameron, one last thing, contact information, anything you wish for ways for people to contact you.
Yeah, so our symbol again is DPRO on the NASDAQ. Woo! And our website is draganfly.com. But that Draganfly is spelled
with an A.
That's right. So
don't forget that.
Draganfly.com.
Draganfly.com with an A.
Yeah.
Cameron, thank you for your time, and you have a great weekend. I'm very grateful to you for sharing with me today.